Now that I'm a father, I think I have more of a drive. I want my kids to have the best of the best. I had a lot. My dad did a lot for me, but I want to do better for my kids.
What really happened to Jay Paul Molinere, the fearless alligator hunter from Swamp People? One minute he was a fan favorite, dominating the swamps with his father by his side, and the next, he vanished from the screen without explanation. Was it a personal choice, a hidden scandal, or something far more unexpected? In this video, we dive deep into the untold story behind his sudden disappearance, his life after reality TV, and the truth fans never saw coming. Growing up in Louisiana, Jay Paul's childhood wasn't exactly ordinary. His life revolved around the wild, untamed swamps of the region, where alligator hunting is a way of life, passed down from generation to generation. His father, Jay Molinere, was already a respected name in the alligator hunting community, known for his skill and bravery. It's no surprise that Jay Paul followed in those same footsteps, eventually becoming one of the standout personalities on Swamp People, a show that introduced millions to the gritty reality of hunting in the bayou. Swamp People, which airs on the History Channel, is not your typical reality show. It doesn't follow glamorous lifestyles or artificial drama. Instead, it dives deep into the lives of families who make their living in one of America's most dangerous environments, the swamps of Louisiana. These hunters risk their lives during the state's annual alligator hunting season, taking on creatures that can weigh hundreds of kilos and pose a real threat. The show quickly gained a loyal following, in part because it offers a raw, unscripted look at survival, tradition, and family. Jay Paul wasn't just another face on the show. He was young, fit, and highly skilled, often working alongside his father, RJ, to catch massive alligators under challenging conditions. His presence on the show added a different dimension, combining physical strength with calculated precision. What also made him relatable was his calm demeanor and deep respect for the land and its creatures. Fans quickly took notice, and over time, Jay Paul became one of the most recognizable figures in the Swamp People cast. But there's more to Jay Paul than just his TV persona. Before he ever stepped in front of the camera, he had built an impressive background. He was born in Louisiana in 1984 and raised in a family that treated hunting not just as a job, but as a core part of their identity. He was introduced to hunting at a very young age. By the time he was 9, he was already accompanying his father into the swamp. While most kids were playing video games or riding bikes, Jay Paul was learning how to track, aim, and shoot. It was a tough upbringing, but it built the foundation for everything that came later. As a teenager, he didn't just stick to hunting. He also pursued a formal education and graduated from Terrebonne High School in Houma, Louisiana. Shortly after finishing school, he enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps. Serving for 4 years, Jay Paul developed a strong sense of discipline, mental toughness, and resilience, qualities that would later prove vital both in the swamp and in front of the camera. Military service gave him a broader perspective on life, as well as the ability to handle high-pressure situations calmly, a trait viewers would come to admire during tense hunting scenes on the show. Once he returned from the Marines, Jay Paul picked up right where he left off, heading back into the swamp and working alongside his family during alligator season. His physical strength, sharp reflexes, and deep familiarity with the terrain made him an ideal partner for his father. When the producers of Swamp People were looking to expand the show's cast, Jay Paul's name was already on their radar. He was the full package, experienced, media-friendly, and genuinely passionate about the work. He joined the series in its 2nd season, and it wasn't long before he and his father became fan favorites. Their teamwork was impressive to watch. They operated almost wordlessly, reading each other's cues, navigating the waterways with confidence, and taking down dangerous animals with incredible precision. The bond between father and son was obvious, and viewers appreciated the authenticity. There was no acting, no pretense, just 2 men doing a job they loved and had been doing for years. The show's producers struck gold with the Molineres. They brought a balance of experience and youthful energy to the screen, helping to shape the direction of the series as it grew in popularity. Jay Paul wasn't just catching alligators, he was becoming a public figure. Over time, his name became synonymous with swamp people, and his following extended beyond television. He began appearing in other types of media, including local events, interviews, and eventually even film and television roles outside the realm of reality TV. Despite all the attention, Jay Paul never lost sight of what mattered most to him: family. Whether in interviews or on social media, he's spoken about how becoming a father changed him. His priorities shifted. It wasn't just about hunting or fame anymore. It was about creating a better future for his kids, instilling in them the same values that guided him, while also opening doors that might not have been available when he was younger. The personal transformation that Jay Paul experienced as a father is one that many people can relate to. It's the idea that you want to do better, not just for yourself, but for the people you love. That drive, combined with his natural skill and years of experience, explains why he stood out not just on swamp people, but in real life as well. He began focusing more on responsible hunting practices and on using his platform to inspire others. In interviews, he's spoken about how important it is to maintain a connection to the environment and preserve traditions that are slowly fading in the modern world. For Jay Paul, hunting isn't just a sport, it's a way of life, one that teaches respect, patience, and awareness. As the show continued to evolve, so did its cast. New hunters joined, different storylines were explored, and like with many long-running series, some cast members began to leave. For fans, these changes were sometimes difficult to accept. Jay Paul's presence on the show had become a staple, and any disruption to that formula would naturally lead to questions. So when Jay Paul suddenly disappeared from the series, viewers were left wondering why. Was it a personal decision, a contract issue, something more serious? The sudden absence created a gap in the show's dynamic, and while swamp people continued without him, many fans felt that it had lost one of its most compelling personalities. The questions surrounding his departure would eventually be answered, but the initial reaction was one of confusion and concern. Jay Paul had become more than just a television character. He was someone people admired, someone whose journey they had followed for years. When he vanished from the screen, it felt like the story had been cut short. What happened behind the scenes, and what led to his unexpected exit, forms a significant chapter in Jay Paul Molinere's life. But before diving into that, it's important to understand who he was before the controversy. A dedicated father, a seasoned hunter, a disciplined Marine, and a well-loved television personality, Jay Paul's early years on and off the screen laid the groundwork for everything that followed. His family's name was already well known in the local hunting community. His father, Jay Molinere, had built a strong reputation as one of the most skilled alligator hunters in the region. This wasn't a profession for the faint-hearted. Alligator hunting in Louisiana involves braving extreme weather, dense terrain, and face-to-face encounters with one of North America's most dangerous predators. But for the Molineres, this wasn't just work. It was part of who they were. The swamp wasn't something to escape from. It was home. Jay Paul was introduced to this world from a very young age. Unlike most children, whose earliest memories involve playgrounds or cartoons, his were filled with early morning boat rides through murky waters, the sound of wildlife echoing across the bayou, and the steady voice of his father teaching him how to track, aim, and handle himself under pressure. By the time he was 9 years old, he was actively going on hunts with his father. This wasn't just for fun, it was training. His childhood was built around preparation, responsibility, and a deep respect for nature. Although it might seem like an unconventional upbringing, it gave Jay Paul a set of life skills that would shape his entire future. He learned discipline, situational awareness, patience, and decision-making under stress, all traits that would later serve him both in front of the camera and in his other career paths. But his life wasn't entirely rooted in the swamp. He also attended school like any other child. He completed his education at Terrebonne High School in Houma, Louisiana, balancing his life between traditional academics and the demanding work of his family's lifestyle. After high school, Jay Paul made a decision that would further shape his character and build on the values he was raised with. He joined the United States Marine Corps, where he served for 4 years. Military life is never easy, but for someone like Jay Paul, who already had a foundation of hard work and discipline, it was a natural fit. The Marines tested his endurance, built his leadership skills, and gave him a level of physical and mental resilience that would stay with him for life. His time in the Marines added depth to his personality and broadened his perspective. It was during this period that he developed a sense of professionalism and structure that extended beyond hunting. The Marine Corps instills a mindset of purpose and determination, and it's clear that these qualities continued to guide Jay Paul long after he returned to civilian life. Once his military service ended, Jay Paul returned to Louisiana. While some veterans might seek out a quieter life, Jay Paul leaned back into the world he had known growing up. He returned to the swamps with his family and resumed hunting, working alongside his father and siblings to catch alligators during the regulated hunting season. It wasn't just a family business anymore, it was a way of preserving a heritage that meant everything to him. The turning point came in 2011 when the producers of Swamp People were scouting for new talent. The show was already a hit by that point, with viewers fascinated by the real-life drama of the alligator season and the rugged individuals who made their living in such a dangerous profession. But the producers were looking to bring in new faces, people who could bring energy, skill, and authenticity to the show. Jay Paul ticked every box. He joined Swamp People in its second season, and it didn't take long for him to become one of the standout personalities. His work ethic, physical fitness, and unshakable calm under pressure made him a natural fit for the show's high-stakes environment. Whether navigating through narrow waterways or wrestling with powerful alligators, Jay Paul did it all with precision and confidence. He wasn't trying to play a character, he was just being himself. Working alongside his father, RJ, their teamwork quickly became one of the highlights of the series. Unlike some reality shows that rely heavily on drama and scripted moments, Swamp People thrived on authenticity. The Molinares brought exactly that. Watching them interact, you could see the layers of trust and mutual respect between father and son. Their hunting trips weren't just about catching alligators. They were about carrying on a tradition, passing down knowledge, and doing a job that most people couldn't even imagine. Outside of the show, Jay Paul began to explore other opportunities as well. His presence on national television opened doors, and he used his growing platform to branch out. He appeared in several other productions, including The Magnificent Seven and NCIS New Orleans, which allowed him to expand his experience in front of the camera. While these roles were relatively minor, they showed his willingness to try new things and evolve as a public figure. At the same time, Jay Paul began to build a career as a motivational speaker. Drawing from his experiences in the Marines, his time on Swamp People, and his life growing up in the swamp, he began speaking at schools, conventions, and events across the country. His message was simple but powerful. Stay focused, work hard, and never give up on your goals. For young people facing uncertainty or looking for direction, his words carried weight. He wasn't just talking about success. He had lived through the struggle, the risk, and the commitment it takes to reach your potential. Even as his fame grew, Jay Paul never drifted too far from his roots. Despite appearances in film and television, despite speaking engagements and media coverage, he continued to hunt. He continued to live in Louisiana, and he continued to spend time with his family, maintaining the values that had guided him since childhood. While some personalities use fame to distance themselves from their beginnings, Jay Paul stayed grounded. Part of what made him so appealing to audiences was his authenticity. He didn't put on a performance or pretend to be someone he wasn't. Whether on screen or off, he remained the same, focused, respectful, and committed. That consistency built trust with viewers, who came to see him not just as a character, but as a real person they could relate to. His partnership with his father also remained a central part of his public identity. Jay Molinere was not just a hunting partner, but a mentor and friend. Their relationship reflected a kind of connection that resonated deeply with many people, strong, supportive, and forged through shared experience. For fans, their bond was one of the most compelling aspects of the show. The abrupt nature of their exit caused confusion and led to a wave of speculation. Some believed it was due to contract disagreements or a shift in the show's direction. Others suspected personal reasons, like a desire to step away from the public eye or to focus more on family. But as time passed, it became clear that something more serious had taken place, something that would not only affect their future on the show, but also alter how some people viewed them. In 2016, both Jay Paul and his father RJ were arrested following a physical altercation that occurred near a convenience store in Bourg, Louisiana. The incident was reported to have taken place close to Roland's Mini Mart, located off the Bourg-La Rose Highway. According to local reports, a 24-year-old man was involved in a dispute with the Molineres that escalated into violence. The altercation, which began as a verbal disagreement, ended with allegations of physical assault. The victim claimed that both Jay Paul and RJ attacked him using bottles, leading to visible injuries including a swollen mouth, a black eye, and a wound on his forehead. Authorities responded to the incident by issuing arrest warrants for both father and son. They eventually turned themselves into the police and were booked on battery-related charges. While the details of the altercation remain somewhat unclear, especially in terms of what sparked the initial disagreement, the reported injuries and the decision to press charges indicate that the situation was taken seriously by law enforcement. It's worth noting that prior to this event, neither Jay Paul nor RJ had any public history of legal trouble. For many fans, the news came as a shock. The Molineres had always been portrayed as disciplined and respectful, both on the show and in public appearances. Jay Paul, in particular, was admired not just for his physical skill and bravery, but for the level-headed way he carried himself. So the idea of him being involved in a violent incident didn't fit the image that viewers had come to associate with him. The news quickly spread across fan communities, entertainment blogs, and local media outlets. While some fans expressed disappointment, others defended the Molineres, arguing that everyone makes mistakes and that this one incident shouldn't define their entire careers. Still, the impact was immediate. Their involvement in the show became uncertain, and eventually, it was confirmed that they would not return for the next season of Swamp People. At the time of the incident, the series had already been renewed for another season, and producers were planning new storylines and cast developments. The arrest disrupted those plans. Given the family-oriented nature of the show and the high visibility of its cast members, the producers may have felt that the controversy brought by the arrest didn't align with the image they wanted to maintain. Whether it was a mutual decision or a call made by the network, the result was the same. Jay Paul and RJ were no longer part of the show's future. For a television program built on real lives and real people, these moments serve as a reminder that reality TV is still rooted in actual events and consequences. Unlike scripted dramas, where a character can be written off and forgotten, reality shows deal with the complexities of real individuals. The arrest and the resulting exit from the show brought a wave of reflection, not just for fans, but perhaps also for the Molineres themselves. Despite the gravity of the situation, the legal outcome of the case did not result in long-term imprisonment. After being booked and processed, both men were released on bond. Information on how long they remained in custody before release was not publicly confirmed, but they did not serve extended jail time. The court proceedings and any potential settlements or conditions related to the charges were handled privately. What's clear, however, is that their public image took a hit, and their standing within the Swamp People series was permanently altered. Following their exit, neither Jay Paul nor RJ gave in-depth public statements about the incident or their departure from the show. This silence left room for further speculation, but it also seemed intentional. In a world where public figures often rush to social media to share their side of the story, the Molineres chose to remain relatively quiet. That choice might have been guided by legal advice, or it might simply reflect their personal approach, keeping private matters away from the public spotlight. The absence of official explanation created a kind of mystery that continues to surround their exit. For some, this lack of closure is frustrating, but for others, it's understandable. Not everyone wants to air their struggles in front of millions of viewers. Jay Paul had always been known for focusing on family and values rather than fame. That same approach likely influenced how he handled this period of his life. It's important to consider the broader implications of incidents like this one. Public figures, especially those on family-friendly television shows, often carry an added burden of responsibility. They are expected to act as role models, to maintain a level of behavior that aligns with the values their audience expects. When they fall short, whether due to a moment of poor judgment or more serious decisions, the backlash can be swift and unforgiving. For the Swamp People audience, which includes many families and individuals who relate deeply to the values of hard work, tradition, and respect, the Molineres' legal trouble introduced a difficult contrast. Here were two beloved figures who represented everything good about the show, now caught in a controversy that didn't fit the narrative fans had come to trust. But life is rarely black and white. People make mistakes, and public personas often only show one side of the story. While the incident was serious and had real consequences, it's also just one chapter in Jay Paul's life. It doesn't erase his military service, his dedication to family, or the years he spent building a name for himself through skill, discipline, and hard work. Since the incident, both Jay Paul and RJ have stepped away from the spotlight to some extent. They no longer appear on the show, and their social media presence has remained relatively low-key, at least in terms of addressing the past. They've chosen to focus instead on private life, family, and personal projects, which will be explored more in the next section. What stands out from this chapter is not just the event itself, but how quickly public opinion can shift. One moment, you're admired by millions. The next, you're facing scrutiny and judgment. For Jay Paul, navigating that shift must have been challenging, especially as someone who built a career on authenticity and resilience. One of the most visible aspects of Jay Paul's post-television life is his continued dedication to his family. From his social media presence to interviews and appearances at local events, it's clear that his role as a father remains a top priority. He's often seen spending time with his children, sharing moments from outdoor adventures, hunting trips, and family gatherings. These posts highlight a quieter but fulfilling lifestyle, one that centers on being present and involved in his children's lives. For Jay Paul, being a parent isn't just about providing, it's about leading by example. Much like his own father taught him the ways of the swamp, Jay Paul has taken on the responsibility of passing down the same traditions. Hunting, fishing, and respect for nature are not just hobbies in his household, they are part of the family's way of life. In many ways, the values instilled in him as a young boy, discipline, self-reliance, and humility, are now being taught to the next generation. While his television career has taken a back seat, Jay Paul hasn't stepped away from public life entirely. He has used his platform to support causes and promote small businesses, particularly those tied to rural communities and traditional industries. Whether through social media posts or appearances at regional events, he's helped bring attention to the importance of preserving local cultures and supporting under-the-radar enterprises. This focus has endeared him to many who value authenticity over commercialism. Another area where Jay Paul has continued to push himself is in competitive sports. Long before he became a reality TV personality, he was involved in combat sports, particularly mixed martial arts, MMA. After his time on Swamp People, he remained active in the world of physical competition. One of the more surprising but impressive examples of this came in 2019, when he participated in the Mississippi Arm Wrestling Championships. Competing in both left and right-handed categories, Jay Paul stunned his rivals by taking top honors. His success in this field once again showcased his strength, determination, and competitive spirit. These victories were not just about winning trophies, they were a testament to his discipline and resilience. It's one thing to succeed in a familiar environment like the swamp, but quite another to step into a completely different arena and still perform at a high level. Jay Paul's performance in these contests demonstrated that even outside the world of television and hunting, he continues to challenge himself and pursue excellence. Though he has kept a relatively low profile compared to his reality TV days, Jay Paul remains a popular figure on social media. His accounts don't just showcase his daily life, they also offer glimpses into who he is as a person. There's very little flash or pretense in the way he presents himself online. Instead, followers see a man who values family, hard work, and authenticity. He posts about outdoor activities, fitness routines, and time spent with loved ones. Occasionally, he uses his platform to promote products or causes he believes in, but always in a way that feels genuine. In a digital world dominated by influencers chasing trends, Jay Paul's approach is refreshingly grounded. He's not trying to reinvent himself as a celebrity, he's simply continuing the life he's always lived, just with more people watching. This subtle presence has allowed him to maintain a connection with his fan base without getting caught up in the often fleeting world of internet fame. Financially, Jay Paul's decision to step away from television hasn't meant stepping away from success. While Swamp People contributed significantly to his public profile and initial earnings, he's made smart decisions to build on that foundation. Various estimates place his net worth at around $800,000, which reflects a combination of television income, sports-related earnings, promotional work, and business ventures. In addition to these revenue streams, Jay Paul has also shown an interest in real estate and local investments. These ventures may not always make headlines, but they indicate a long-term approach to financial stability. For someone who comes from a modest background, diversifying income and building a sustainable future is a wise move. It also reinforces the idea that his success isn't tied solely to fame, it's grounded in careful planning and consistent effort. As for a return to television, there has been no official word from Jay Paul or the producers of Swamp People. Fans occasionally speculate about whether he and his father might one day return to the series that made them household names. While the idea is intriguing, both men seem content with where life has taken them. Their quiet departure and low-key lifestyle suggest that they've moved on to a new phase, one where the rewards are more personal than public. That being said, the possibility isn't entirely off the table. Reality TV is known for its surprises, and longtime fans would no doubt welcome the Molineres back with open arms if they ever decided to return. But even if that never happens, their legacy within the show remains intact. Their years on Swamp People helped define the tone and spirit of the series. They weren't just participants. They were standard-bearers for what the show represented: bravery, skill, family, and authenticity. More broadly, Jay Paul's life after television offers a reminder that fame doesn't have to define a person's path. Many reality stars fade away after their time in the spotlight, struggling to find purpose or relevance. But Jay Paul's journey has gone in the opposite direction. He's used the experience to build something stable, meaningful, and deeply rooted in his personal values. Rather than chase attention, he's chosen to invest in the things that matter most: family, health, tradition, and community. The strength of his character can be seen not just in his public achievements, but in the way he carries himself day to day. There's no loud rebranding, no forced attempt to stay relevant. Instead, there's a quiet confidence in who he is and where he comes from. Whether he's on a hunting trip with his children or supporting a local business, Jay Paul's actions reflect a consistent set of values that has guided him through both success and adversity. Looking back, it's easy to focus on the challenges he faced: the arrest, the exit from the show, the public speculation. But it's just as important to recognize what he's done since then. He's lived a life of purpose, stayed true to his roots, and built a future that doesn't depend on headlines or ratings. That kind of integrity is rare, especially in a world that often rewards drama and controversy. Jay Paul Molinere may no longer be in front of the camera, but he hasn't disappeared. He's simply chosen a different path, one with fewer spotlights but deeper meaning. His story continues, not as a reality TV star, but as a father, athlete, outdoorsman, and role model for those who understand that real success is measured not just in fame, but in the life you build when the cameras stop rolling.